All right, guys, welcome to the next episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear with Skip Hill, S2H. I'm Scott McNally. We're about to get into the show. Today, we are going to talk about this whole situation with Shawn Rhoden. We've got a bunch of questions after that, so about the 30-minute point, I believe. I don't know. You can look at the program notes to see exactly. We've got questions such as HCG on TRT, B6 instead of Caber while taking Tren. How common is it to lose muscle while dieting? We got some Olympia predictions. Cialis Cialis while taking pre-workouts. Is that going to kill you? Well, you can find out a little bit more about that. And I don't know, here's some more stories about what Skip's wife's doing right now at my house. Hey, I'll be right with you. I never make jokes like that.
That's good, though.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. Guys, enjoy the show.
All right, I got to go watch Hotel Mumbai.
Guys, welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear. Scott McNally with Skip Hill and S2H. I'm going to skip my goddamn story about my capacitor now. But basically,
probably a good idea.
Here's the deal, though. So it was going to cost $500 to get an emergency technician for my air conditioning unit out to my house today. And Victoria and I figured out through YouTube that it was probably this capacitor, which cost me $15. I replaced it, and boom, fuck yeah, AC came right back on. I felt like a baller. That was nice.
At the expense of your Skype and your computer and everything else.
That's an issue in its own. There was some weird shit happening while you guys were gone. But I'm glad to have you back. For everybody who's tuning in to the recorded version of this podcast, we just had a bunch of bullshit go down in the background here. But none of you know about that. The 10 people that are viewing the show live do know about it. Let's just get this thing rolling. We don't even we didn't even script this thing. I know you guys wanted to talk about the whole Rhoden situation. I know that we've been texting back and forth for 2 weeks since this happened, and it was big news a couple weeks ago, and then it kind of died down, but now it's big news again. First of all, I want to say I heard there was this like tell-all interview with Rhoden. I watched a couple minutes of it. I didn't see anything about Shawn Rhoden like telling the situation though. And this was Michael O'Hearn's YouTube page. So he did a tell-all interview where he got to tell his side on the story. Did you guys get a chance to? Did you hear anything about this?
Well, that's weird. I listened to the interview.
Yeah.
And I think I heard about as much as everybody else did.
Huh.
I'm thinking maybe he just used it for clickbait.
You
Scott?
think? Oh, huh.
I don't know. I didn't watch it because it's a waste of my time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you did, and you figured out what I said. Yeah. I don't know. Look, I'm not going to bash on Mike, but I will say he took quite a beating. It was probably deserved because he didn't do a tell-all. I mean, there was nothing there. What it was, the way I understand it was set up, or he had set it up to where he was supposed to have Shawn on a few days before everything happened.
Okay.
And so when it went time to air, I think he just, from the sounds of it, he just took advantage of the timing and was doing it to get clicks and knew that he didn't have an interview. He didn't have Shawn's side of anything. So a lot of people went to listen to it, of course, and were disappointed, thought it was kind of a douchebag move. So if the information I have is incorrect, then I can get beat up, and I guess Mike O'Hearn needs to punch me in the face the next time he sees me, which is frequent.
Well,
I mean, him and I bump into each other a lot.
Do you really? Yeah.
No, hell no, of course not.
Well, here's I'm going to go to, I didn't listen to the whole thing. Like I said, I'm 10 minutes in and I stopped it at that point because they were like, well, tell us about, they do this interview. I figured it's going to be this hard hitting thing. Like, what the fuck is going on? And thankfully now we get an opportunity to hear Shawn Rhoden's side. And he's like, okay, let's get into this. Tell me about where you grew up.
Right.
And I was like, huh? And I got 10 minutes in and I stopped it. I looked at the comments. Benjamin Dover says, clickbait, really? You're taking it
over.
you're taking advantage of his situation for views. Nothing was said about his current legal situation. So I stopped listening after watching it after that. Someone else said, yeah, what an asshole. I'll never click on O'Hearn's videos again. And somebody else said, lost what little respect I had for Mike, unsubscribed now. Yeah. So anyway, there was a bunch more. And like other guys were saying they unsubscribed. But I seriously, when I brought that to you guys, and I kind of set it up like I didn't know. But when I brought it to you guys, I really didn't know. I was like, oh, wow, we got a chance to hear what Rhoden has to say. But so, yeah, that's the situation, huh?
Yeah, nothing, basically. The situation is up in the air, and the reality is until, at least this is my opinion, until the 23rd, which is 2 more days, obviously when this goes, is recorded and comes out on Thursday, his comment will have already been made public. But the point is on the 23rd, Shawn is supposed to make a public comment or comment on it publicly. The only thing that I know that's really worth, and it could be argued that this isn't worth anything, but the latest I heard was that Shawn had taken 2 polygraphs and passed them both.
Okay.
That really doesn't mean a whole lot. No, it doesn't, especially from a legal standpoint. I get that. However, and you have to understand too that I'm sure that I would imagine they're independent polygraphs. So, paid for probably by him or his camp. So there's not much credibility in that. At the same time, I got a lot of questions on both sides. I mean, and I think a lot of people do, just because nobody really knows what's going on. I think the biggest issue I have at this early stage with the whole situation is I don't know how comfortable I am that the IFBB is not allowing him to compete, and it sounds like he's banned for life. I don't know if
really for life.
Well, now here's the thing. I don't know, if that's some kind of an embellishment that somebody said and everybody ran with. I don't know. But I don't know how you can not be allowed to compete based entirely on an accusation that hasn't been founded or unfounded. It's just kind of bizarre. Now, they could have something written into the IFBB contracts that would almost have to say, even though you didn't do something, if you've been accused of it and it's bad enough and it falls under these, this category of things, you can't compete. They're not letting him compete. I don't know. That really sounds kind of fucked up, to be honest with you. So I don't even know. I hope there's not some truth to some things and more truth to others. And I think what's happening is there's a lot of speculation going on, and we are too. We're trying to make sense of the small amount of information that's out there already. And I don't know. I mean, it was our idea, all 3 of us, to talk about it because I think it's important and people do want to know. At the same time, we're speculating like everybody else.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they have a conduct clause, and it's probably kind of broad, but this is just, I don't know for sure, but I would say from their standpoint, and I want to, for one thing, I'll say I take this from an objective standpoint, and I critically think. I don't read this garbage on the internet and all this disinformation that comes out, because that's what it is. You get a lot of disinformation to bend things the way whatever who's reporting it, or they just parrot it and repeat it. I mean, it's all a bunch of garbage most of the time.
Well, yeah, but that's how you got your information. How else would you know about it? I mean, we all got.
But just let me know this too. But you got to look at it from, if you take it from a 10,000 foot view and take it objectively, because a lot of people it's like politics. They want to get on one side or the other. Hey, I don't know. He may have done it, but he may not have. He has a right to go to court. That's the justice system, and he has a right to be tried by a jury. And until then, he's innocent until proven guilty.
Right. Now, so shouldn't he be allowed to compete?
But here's the point of the IFBB. And I'm just saying, this is what I would think they were thinking probably, is they probably have a conduct policy that protects them if they deem that they don't want someone to compete. Because what if he competes and wins a show and then he ends up getting convicted?
I got some new intel here too.
It looks really bad on them.
Just a little bit of intel, I guess. So what Steve is saying is it's not the IFBB, it's just the Olympia.
Yeah,
so
AMI.
He's not banned from the IFBB. It's the Olympia isn't letting him compete specifically.
Okay, fair enough. Then it's the Olympia, not the IFBB. I think my point still holds true, though. it's an accusation. Nothing has been founded. I mean, think about it. It sounds very conspiratorial, but what if listen, and I don't care if anybody likes this analogy or this comparison or not, but what if Phil Heath's camp, and clearly this is hypothetical, I'm not picking at Phil Heath, but the fact that he lost last year, and maybe he's coming back this year, which I hear he's not anyway, but let's just say he wants to, and he doesn't want Shawn to be there. They can get somebody to fabricate something, and then all of a sudden he can't be there to defend his crown. That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how I don't even understand how, as the Olympia LLC, you can do that. Now, is it because just because he was charged? There has to be something black and white. It can't just be the accusation. It can't.
Well, they probably have a conduct policy.
I understand there's a conduct policy. If there's a conduct policy in place, there almost has to be. But what is it? Is it if you're charged with something, then you don't get to compete, or is it if somebody makes an accusation?
Most conduct policies are pretty broad in general, and it allows any business or any kind of governing body of sports, whatever, to implement whatever rules they want. I mean, this is why golf has kept their conduct policies like it's like state secrets, because they judge how they want to with people. And it's not, but if they're private entities, they can do whatever they want. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I would see in their situation, they're like, okay, if this guy really gets convicted, but we let him compete before he goes to trial and he wins, how does that look on our organization? Then you get the problem is then you get all this backlash from all these media outlets and all this crap you get from people, and then they'll say you let a rapist win your show. I mean, I think the danger of the outcome for them is high, so they just want to separate themselves. But I don't think it's fair, because we have a judicial system, but life's not fair. And
he already won it. He already won it. So if he turns out to be a rapist, we already have a rapist Mr. Olympia. So now we have a rapist Mr. Olympia, and then we have one who steals shit and doesn't return it.
I was waiting for that.
I mean, yeah, not exactly. We don't have a good track record here if he's not going to help. I mean, I'm trying to add a little bit of levity, I guess. It's an ugly situation no matter what. So, but he's already won the Mr. Olympia. So if he turns out to be a rapist, he already won the fucking Olympia.
Scott,
whether he wins it a second time doesn't matter. It doesn't make him any more of a rapist.
Scott, you're totally off camera, by the way.
I know, I'm hiding from Skip. I mean, it's that's your opinion, and I can see your point. I'm not going to argue with you, because I'm just saying that who knows? I mean, I think I'll say this: if they're going to say that he can't compete, they should give a sound reason behind it. Exactly. Then not just say, hey, you can't compete, and that's it. They should put, because the IFB, what's his name? What's the guy that runs it? Mannion. He put out a memo today. It was very short, but it was the way it was handled was correctly. It said that as of right now, he basically just repeated the law. He's accused, but he's not convicted, and we'll let let him have due process. I mean, it's pretty short, but I mean, just to say the guy can't compete. I mean, if they have a clause, they have a conduct clause. They should say they're citing their conduct clause, but it probably is so general that it'll just stir up more controversy, And then you got people all over social media, and everybody's got an opinion. But hey, man, the guy has, he's got a legal right to defend himself, and I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying he didn't. I don't know. I mean, to sit out there and say, to give judgment on it from the outside, I think is just that's getting on that one-sided track where you're just going to defend somebody just for defend them, or go against them just to go against them. You don't know. Maybe some people ought to do their homework too, because no one really looks into things anymore. They just read what's on social media.
That's true.
And I'm telling you, man, a lot of this shit's just disinformation to throw people one way or the other. People don't look into stuff anymore. They don't use their own minds. They just sit there and just go, oh, so-and-so said on Instagram or whatever, and then God knows it's got to be true.
And that's the thing. I mean, it doesn't even have to have happened now for this to really have screwed him over. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For exactly that same reason. Because this is what he was accused of, then for the rest of, his life, there's so many people that like really don't care, that don't care enough to really look into it. But if they see that just on their news feed really quick, then they're like, oh yeah, Shawn Rhoden, rapist, period. That's it. End of story. Move on. Take my next selfie. So
I mean, even if he's found not guilty, or the case is dismissed, I mean, his reputation is tarnished.
Sure.
Bad. The only person that get away with this is Tiger Woods. He'd be fine. They'd be like, oh, no big deal.
And I think because of the way bodybuilding is and bodybuilding fans look, if you're a big fan of Shawn Rhoden, I guarantee you believe him and you think that he would never do anything like that. I'd like to think you wouldn't either.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan of his, if you're a fan of Phil's and you want Phil to come back, I'll bet that if we did a small poll in a survey, the large majority of Phil fans would think he's a rapist.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because that's how people make their goddamn decisions sometimes.
You're right. You're right.
And it's really, really sad. Because here's what you have. Somebody's fucking lying. One or two people here is lying.
Yeah.
Okay? It's either the person who made the accusation, who has technically done it before and has done it to federal investigators or something along that line, was actually charged with it as a federal crime. So it's very possible that she's full of shit. There are other, there are other details of the situation that make you scratch your head and go, God, if I was her husband, why would I wait in the lobby while my wife goes up to her trainer's room and she'll be right back?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just some questions there. And some people may say, well, Skip, you don't know what happened. That's very, very true. But the point is, there are questions there. And then you think, God, you look at somebody like Shawn Rhoden, and I'm kind of apathetic when it comes to Shawn. I think his physique is awesome. I think that he deserved to beat Phil last year. He's also very uneventful and not very, not very like, he's not bad for bodybuilding or bad for the Olympia or bad for a Mr. Olympia as far as PR and everything else. But I think he'd just rather sit back, chill at his house, not do anything, fucking smoke a doobie, and be left alone. He really doesn't care how much money he makes, things like that. I mean, he just seems like a very chill, roll with it kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't know why he would have to force himself on someone who has a history based on text messages and everything else that she's kind of been flirting with him and shit like that. I mean, he's allegedly has all these text messages to prove that. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there's just a lot of bizarre, and let's be fair, it certainly is not going to be something that couldn't happen for someone to accuse Shawn of doing something that he didn't do to this level and then have it come back to be one of these fucked up things where you go, how could you possibly fucking say something like that? Now, that's going to sound, or potentially could sound, unsympathetic to a potential rape victim. And I understand that. So beat the fuck out of me there and call me anti-woman and all that sort of shit.
But it does happen.
But it has happened.
Listen.
Those are the times we live in.
I just posted a comment. David Spencer, one of our listeners, said, I don't know who this guy is. He says, Ched Evans is his name. Ched Evans, professional football player. And of course, I'm just going by what he says here. I haven't looked this up. Was convicted of rape in April 2012 and spent 2.5 years in prison. His conviction was quashed on April 21st, 2016 by the Court of Appeal, and a retrial was ordered on October 14th, October 2016. He was found not guilty. His career was ruined in the process.
Yeah, and it's a tough situation.
It's fucking nuts.
Clearly, you have to take accusations of rape very, very seriously.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, sometimes we're just taking. I go back to those girls who made the accusations against that, this should have been done before the show, but the what was it, a lacrosse team or a rugby team or something, where
the Duke team.
Thank you. Totally destroyed this fucking team and everybody on it. The whole country was against them, and these crazy bitches were fucking lying. There's a lot of power in this, and I hate to term it or to use this term, but in this rape, what do I want to say, like debate era that we're in. I mean, it holds a lot of They hold a lot of power. So if you want to bullshit and you want to get everybody's attention, you want to lie, you've got everybody's attention when you say somebody raped your ass.
Absolutely.
Because not a lot of people can say, oh, we need to sit here and question it, because as soon as you question a rape victim, you're a fucking asshole. And you're anti-woman and everything else. It's tough. It's really a tough position. I hope like hell he did not do it. I really do. And if she is lying, I hope they fucking slam her and put her in the goddamn jail too. And if Shawn did it, if Shawn fucking raped her, his ass needs to go to fucking jail for a long time too. And it'll be interesting, I think, to watch it play out and see who is full of shit.
Yeah.
You just got to wait for it to go through the court. I mean, there's not enough information out there to make any real decision for anybody.
No, but that's why I think he should be allowed to compete. I really do think he should be allowed to compete. I think it's a pretty shitty thing, because if he ends up that it goes and runs its course and they go to trial and he's found guilty or he pleads to it or whatever else, he deserves everything he gets.
Sure, I agree. But until then, man, he's innocent until that time, right? I mean, no matter what. Apparently. Yeah.
I mean, he's supposed to, but he can't compete. He can't do what he needs to do to make a living.
That's a very weird situation, man. And just to think, man, even if they do, I mean, just this happening, I feel like a lot less situations have thrown a great bodybuilder off from being his very best. You know what I mean? Just throw a guy in jail for a couple weeks, break him through the coals like this. This is not going to be good for his physique. I mean, that's obvious, but we haven't said that. It's like, even if he is allowed to compete, is he going to be able to be his best? I mean, think about it, man. Think about how easy it is to get thrown off just having to travel for a weekend, let alone the level of stress that he has to be going through right now. Whether he did it or not, that's totally beside the point, man. Like, let's look at it from a bodybuilding perspective. He's fucked, really. He's fucked.
What about social media? He'd have to put up daily if he's not already putting up with it now.
Yeah.
He's got to put up with 50% probably those people thinking, yeah, you fucking did that. You're an asshole. You're a piece of shit. Oh, man. And he has no choice. He has to deal with social media because he's got a brand. He's got a brand that he's got to stay out there and promote.
Yeah.
That's rough, man.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Well, I think there's there's some stuff to it that just, it'll come out and, it's like his bail. That thing was insane. I mean, that thing was like, if it's true, which I'm questioning if that's the right amount, because that is insane, even though what he's accused of is real serious. But I mean, I looked up Utah's laws, and for him to get a bail that high, I don't see how that could even be accurate. The only way it could be is if they thought he was a high risk of flight, but more so, I think there were. I mean, obviously between his attorney and the prosecution, the DA's office in Utah, there's been a lot of dialogue in this time frame between last October, and I'm gonna just assume that his bail's that high because they're allowing him freedom of movement and to live in another state and stuff.
Right.
Because there's no other reason why it would be that high. I mean, I was looking at their laws. I mean, the most his bail could be, if he was not a flight risk and didn't have a prior, which he doesn't, would be like $75,000. So maybe that would be the max. So I think someone might have tossed an extra zero in there, or they made a deal where he could have freedom of movement in the U.S. and stuff to work and what have you. But yeah, that's why when you read shit, sometimes it's like, okay, is this really the truth? I mean, there's people that have been convicted of capital murder, a lot of them that don't have bail that high,
Right.
I mean, it's like, it's so that's where I, when reading all that stuff, it's like, you got to really think for yourself and just let the process take its course, and we'll see what happens. It may not even go to trial, There's still there's a lot of steps in that process. I mean, he just got indicted. Another thing too is that Utah rarely ever uses a grand jury. I mean, it is like super rare. So I don't even think that occurred. They just put a warrant out based off of the investigation and then the preliminary findings of the prosecutor, and went from there.
Well, and let me be fair to Phil too, because I think my wording earlier, I don't want to give the wrong idea. I mean, I think I said steal. Phil didn't necessarily steal a bracelet. He had a bracelet in his possession and didn't fucking return it. So I'll leave it at that. to say he stole it. I don't want to get tied up in semantics, but I don't want some asshole, also getting shitty with me saying that I said that he stole it. That's probably not the best verbiage. But the point is when you take something and you don't give it back, I think we can all agree, and then act like you don't have it. I think most people would agree that's fucking stealing. But nonetheless, I got to be careful with that too, out of respect for Phil.
You gotta fill me in. What's this bracelet story you're talking about?
yeah, because nobody knows about that.
Let's go to a quick break, guys.
Hold on, real quick.
We got more?
Hold on. I'm in a phone call. Hold on. Hey, Dr. Scott. Yeah, I'll straighten Skip out. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Yeah, hey, dude, get rid of the mohawk. Was kind of crooked in the show. Can you straighten out a little bit? Okay, cool. Bye. No problem. I had a little phone call.
I think it's break time.
All right, let's take a quick break, guys, for the radio listeners. We'll be back in just a second with a bunch of bodybuilding questions. You guys.
I had to get it in there.
All right. Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear, guys. I'm Scott McNally with Skip Hill and S2H. Feel like things are going smooth, but I'm still holding my breath on this one. We have a bunch of questions, though. I'm going to go over to Instagram first. So, Skip, I haven't really asked you, man, or Scott. How you guys doing, Skip? You mentioned you're back into bodybuilding. You're lifting weights again, Skip?
Who, Skip?
Who, me?
Yeah, you're lifting weights again? You've been getting in the gym?
I thought you were picking at Scott for losing 10 pounds. I think that's a pretty monumental feat there for. He's lost 10 pounds.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Nobody. I don't think anybody has.
Tomorrow makes I think like 2.5 weeks. I totally cleaned my diet up. I mean, I just committed. So I've been in cardio 4 to 5 days a week, back lifting. I'm not, I'm still like, I'll tell you what I did. I did some chest yesterday, and what else I did? Biceps. So for chest, I did like 4 sets of dumbbell incline presses up to 60s, and then I did some crossovers, and that's it. Because I've learned my lesson in the past, and I'm sore right now, so I'm easing back into it. But yeah, I'm down about 10 pounds. My pants are getting looser, and the only problem is I've been doing the incline on the treadmill, and I've been getting up 10, 12 degrees, and my knees have been real sore, my lower back. So I think I got to wear different shoes. Maybe that's my wife suggested, but. Yeah, it's been going good, man. I've been sticking to it. I have not been through a drive-through in 2.5 weeks.
Nice.
Salads. Well, I was crapping like crazy at first. Man, it was all kinds of roughage going through me. So, yeah, I mean, I just made up my mind. And I saw a picture of myself from something a couple months ago, and I was like, who was that fat ass? I'm like, oh, that's me. I was 230, 239, and I'm actually I've lost 11, so I was 228 today.
Nice. Hell yeah, man.
A lot of water on that, but I feel better other than my knees.
Skip, well, as a coach with 20 plus years of experience, if you have a client who's doing cardio and getting knee issues like Scott is, what would be your suggestions to him?
Something that is Shut the fuck up. He asked me. You be quiet. God damn. Mute his fucking mic. I thought your power bars were going down. See, I'm going to make reference to the time that we lost before we started the show because there was such good shit there.
Yes.
Anyway, as a matter of fact, I'm really disappointed that was lost. But anyway, that's an impact. It's especially the lower back. With the lower back on an incline like that, you need something that's no or low impact. So you need to get your fat ass on an elliptical. That's what you need to do.
No, that sounds like a plan.
That would be my advice to my client, not to Scott, but to my client. You need to get your fat ass on an elliptical.
And what's going on with your training?
I'm 4 weeks in, and weights are becoming a little lighter.
Yeah?
And I'm filling out a little more.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's going the way. It's just uneventful, and it's boring. I write my coach logs for Elite FTS every week, and it's like, there's nothing to report. Oh, I did have a small ding in my lower back the last couple days. Like it was irritated for a day and a half. I had to walk a little gingerly until I got warm when I got out of bed. But then I went and trained legs and I killed them and everything was good. So I don't know if I slept on it wrong or what. But the point is it's it's just boring. Like I have a hard time writing about what's going on because it's uneventful. But uneventful is good. It means I don't have any injuries. It means things are going the way they're supposed to. So I have no complaints. Everything is really good right now.
You ever feel, as a coach, do you ever feel like almost like, I should, like with a client that you're looking at? Because when things are good, like you might not have to change anything this week or next week or the following week. If you get into that really good groove, that could happen. You ever feel like you need to explain that? Because sometimes I feel bad, almost like it's not that I'm not looking at what you're doing or paying attention. You just don't need to change anything. Like it's going so well, you know?
Yeah. I've had coaches before tell me, coach friends, that sometimes they will change things with their clients just because they haven't changed anything in a while. And I'm like, what do you, what?
Yeah, I've kind of heard that kind of thing too.
Like, yeah, you gotta make sure that they don't think you're not changing anything. I'm like, this is like the dumbest, stupidest shit ever.
Yeah.
Just explain to your clients, and I use this mantra all the time I have for you. Mama said you don't fix what ain't broke. You let it ride, and as long as it's working, you let it ride. You don't fuck with shit for no reason. That doesn't make any sense. You just have to explain to your clients, because you make a good point, Scott. Sometimes they may think you're not fucking doing anything.
Right.
But they should know that everything is going the way that it's supposed to. And when that's happening, I mean, the other alternative is you just get greedy. Well, I'm growing and I'm getting leaner, but it's not enough. And if you think with that type of mentality, all you're going to do is fuck some shit up, and then all of a sudden you're not progressing as well.
Right. Or you're getting fat, right?
Yeah, and I think, too, it's the argument between being reactive or proactive. And everybody, damn near everything we do, it's better to be proactive with health and everything else. But when it comes to making changes with a plan, I'll be the first to admit I'm reactive. I'm not going to make a change going, well, this might happen, so maybe we should. No. It needs to be reactive. And that way, you're only making changes when they're needed.
Totally agree. I got a bunch of questions here. Skip posted a thread. I posted a thread. First question I have here is, this might be something that Scott's good with. I'm not sure what your thoughts are, Scott or Skip. Is there any benefit to running HCG on long-term TRT? Scott?
No, I'm not a big fan of it.
No, but it's kind of a contradiction. Really.
I know people that do though. Because do you use any HCG, Skip?
No, God, no.
Yeah, me either.
You know what? That sounded bad, because the way I answered it implies that is stupid, and that's not. I don't want to give that implication. What I'm saying is, this is why I think it sounds counterintuitive. If you're taking TRT, you're replacing your testosterone because you have low levels of testosterone. What the hell do you need HCG? HCG is to maintain or help to maintain endogenous levels of testosterone so that your nuts don't shut down and they continue to kick out testosterone. I guess it could be argued that, okay, you're taking HCG then because they're not functioning very well and they're at 200, but you're trying to kick them up to 350 and then put TRT on top of it.
Yeah.
Maybe. I look at TRT differently, I guess. So I'm not going to say it's wrong, just to say I don't look at it that way. If you're taking TRT, you're taking it, I would think, because you need to be, because without it, your levels are too low. So to take HCG and TRT, I'm not going to subscribe to that. I don't know that that's the best. I would say I could see taking HCG by itself to try to get yourself into natural, or not natural, but into normal ranges.
Sure.
But then if you're going to take TRT on top of it, I don't know. Maybe there's a combination of, okay, if you're at 200, HCG will get you to 400, and then you can take only a little bit of TRT to get you to 500. I mean, I guess you could do that. I don't like, it seems complicated.
Yeah.
Seems like it's just overly complicated, and it doesn't need to be.
Most people take it when they're on cycle a long time to make their balls hang back down and get their load up.
Yeah, and on a cycle, I can
Increase
understand
sperm
that,
production.
but not on TRT. That I don't, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I don't subscribe to it.
Yeah, I've seen it with HRT doctors that prescribe it. I've got friends and clients that have used HCG. The dose will be like their protocol will be something like 200 milligrams of test sip a week, along with 250 HCG twice a week, that type of thing. So
stimulate LH, FSH.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of If you look at the way that they both of them act in the body, they're kind of counterproductive in some ways, or you're just beating the horse to China a little bit too. So
Yeah,
most people I know that have taken them just because when their balls get all drawn up, they want them to hang back down, and they want to get rid of those little drippy droppies they get after being on cycle for a long time.
right, but I agree with you about the cycle completely. I'm still not an HCG guy, but if I was young and I didn't have any of the rotten kids that I do, and I was worried about fertility or anything like that, yeah, I probably would run HCG on cycles. But to run it with TRT, because that was the question, that I don't subscribe to that. I'm not saying it's wrong, like you said, Scott. There may be doctors that do that. Maybe that helps to keep the actual testosterone dosages down. I don't know. That I don't know, but I'm not going to subscribe to it. Take drugs or don't take drugs. Make your fucking mind up already.
Well, they're both drugs.
I know. Come on. I'm trying to.
I'm
trying to be funny.
I'm looking for Skip's question thread here. I wanted to get to Skip's stuff first.
You know what? Before you do that, let me just say this. 'Cause I got to get this out here because I keep checking my phone.
Yeah.
Sorry, my wife is in Michigan.
Oh, no kidding.
To see her mom right now. I don't want to get into that.
If I wanted to make the kind of jokes you'd make, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, so am I," and she
right,
says
exactly.
hi.
Now, if she comes on the feed drunk, shut her ass down. Don't even just like block her.
Hold on. She wants to sit down.
Yeah, I'm sure. Or come up from under the desk.
Oh, there you go. That was a good one.
She's like, McNally's on HCG.
Clomid.
I think
Skip,
you
how are
had
your vitamin D levels?
Brush your teeth before you come home.
Skip.
I just totally. Let me ask you something. This is for Scott McNally. Does it sound like S2H? I'm going to ask the listeners too. Does it sound like S2H lives on the road that they used in Pet Cemetery?
Is that his feed? That sounds like there's a
Yes.
semi. I just heard a Mack truck go by.
Right. So
Okay.
if anybody has seen Pet Cemetery, they'll understand the reference. Because I think every minute during this podcast, during this show, there's a tanker going up and down your road. And that was the whole thing with Pet Cemetery because it ended up killing the kid, Gage.
Yeah.
Well, I'm at my job at the Love's truck stop, and you know how it is. I don't know. I can't. What do you want to do? Go outside and stop traffic?
Well, I guess you can't do anything. I've never noticed it before, though.
You have a question here for Mr. Skip Hill. He may have covered this, but I'll ask anyways. Compare his TRT prep to some of his other preps where he did the standard prep cycle, pros and cons. How much of a difference was it as far as muscle mass, conditioning, recovery, etc.? I have something I can add in on this, but I'm curious to hear too. Skip.
Well, I mean, it was substantially different during the prep phases when I was on TRT. I am certain that I was explaining it like it wasn't much different because I wanted it to not be that. You know what I mean? But if I'm being honest,
You wanted to believe it, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, in defense of myself and my opinions at that time, I think that it went far better than I anticipated that it would. And that's why I think I was trying to convey it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't this huge, like there's nothing here, this fucking blows. But I mean, the reality is it was still day and night. TRT is still TRT, and being gassed is fucking awesome. It's just a big difference. Recovery, huge.
One thing I'll say, this is the only thing I can compare it to. So when I first started competing, I used your standard test trend Masteron, and as I progressed, I was training with Shelby Starnes a lot, and he went to that phase where he was like, you know what, guys, I'm just going to go to really low dose stuff, and he started competing, and basically, next to nothing pretty much. And I thought to myself, well, you know what, I'm going to try dialing stuff back. I pulled my test back lower than I had before, And I will say the thing I noticed was that I was harder to stay as big and as full as I would have otherwise. Would you say you noticed a difference in your size?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that plays into condition. I mean, I don't know that I was necessarily, not leaner, but even if you have the same body fat level and you're not as swole, your muscle isn't as full and it's just not as big, it's just a different look. So the other thing is even when I was TRT, I was still using a lot of the same things, I believe, for like Clen and T3 and shit, to get lean. So I didn't really have much of a problem getting lean, but it's just a completely different look. It's like pulling the air hose out. When you're gassed, you have an air hose in each muscle and everything is swollen and you feel like you have a pump most of the time, even when you don't.
Yeah.
And when you're on TRT, that only pump your ass has is when you're in the gym working that muscle.
Right.
That's it.
For like the following 5 minutes, right?
Yeah. And that's about it.
And just when we thought it was just all skip loading, it wasn't.
Scott?
Which, when you skip load, it's kind of like having a pump too. But anyway, go ahead.
S2H, B6 as an alternative to Caber for Tren.
Yeah, no kidding.
I've never done this before.
What did Skip say earlier? If you're going to use drugs. But I don't like Caber anyway too much.
Yeah.
I think it's overused. People just take it because they think they got to take it when they really don't have to take it. It's probably one of those ones and it's expensive if you buy it in Europe or whatever, if you live there. It's just, I think it's one of those things, I have to take it because I'm doing this. I think it's one of those ones that's like way overused, way overthought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
B6 has some effect, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper, so you might as well start with B6.
Mm-hmm.
So it does work.
Yeah, it's got action. Yeah, I've heard people I respect say that it works, but I don't think people have the prolactin problems they think they have.
Right, exactly.
Like, I'm going to take Tren, so I'm going to take Caber at $55 uphill.
Yeah.
What the hell it is.
It's funny, too, because people used to do Tren and you wouldn't hear, and now anytime anybody gets on Tren, especially the first time, I think my nipples are sensitive. Bitch, if you don't know your nipples are sensitive, trust me, they're not sensitive.
Yeah.
You're not like, I don't know. I've been playing with them for the last 30 minutes. Yeah, well, no shit. That's why they're sensitive.
Right.
Quit having your boyfriend bite on them, and they won't be so goddamn sensitive.
Yeah, I was rubbing sandpaper on for 2 hours, and they got sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. I think you make a good point. A lot of people just naturally assume that they need it. I don't think they're, prolactin sensitivity. If you truly need Caber, then B6 isn't going to do shit for you. So I don't think it's going to do much anything, but I do think a lot of the people, just like you said, I think a lot of people think they need it and they don't, and it is not cheap. I completely agree. There's some nice side effects though.
Yeah.
How about this one? This is from our friend Gazzy John Flapjack over there.
Gazzy.
Yes, in the UK. He says, let's see. He has a question on carb cycling. Does it work for the off season with growing? I was thinking it may be effective for growing and maintaining some degree of condition in leanness. I've only ever used it in prep. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it's a pretty broad question because carb cycling, there's like a million different. I've heard people even refer to skip loading as carb cycling. I don't look at it
kinda, but like technically kinda, right?
Yeah, technically, I guess. But there's just so many ways to do it. My knee jerk or my first reaction is, anytime that you have a stagnant or stale or caloric intake that is predictable, I don't think that's very good. So whether you mix it up with a different level of carbs or just a different level of calories in general, you need to mix something up. It just it shouldn't be predictable. The body shouldn't get the same caloric intake every day. Which is funny when you think about it, because even if it did, and you did have the same caloric intake every day, you likely don't have the same caloric output. So there's that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I would say my response would be yes. It could cycle them, even if it's just training to non-training days, which is very typical anyway. And I think a lot of people who cut their carbs down on non-training days and they're higher on training days probably don't even consider that carb cycling, but it is.
Yeah. What do you think, Scott? Nice hat.
Yeah, you can do it. Stick some Humalog on your training days with the carbs, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I've done stuff like that myself, just to throw that in there. And that's all.
Just saying.
That's all. I'll move on, find the next question here. We've got all these different places. If you guys haven't noticed, the forum is not available anymore over at advicesradio.com. We're going to just start taking all of our questions through social media because it seems like that's where everybody wants to post anyway. Nobody posts at message boards anymore. So we shall continue posting threads. We've got one about guesses and predictions for the Olympia. We'll hold off on that. We had another question here about, topic, losing muscle. How hard is it really to lose muscle while you're dieting for to get lean? We'll not even say for a contest. Let's just say, how hard is it or how easy is it? How likely are you to lose muscle while you're dieting? I know we talked about this before. This is like going way back for people who are probably listening to like episode 25. Do you remember, Skip? You enlightened me a lot because I was telling you guys about how I had a hard time maintaining mass in my legs. And a couple months later, I could get them to fill back out, but they got really resistant to carbs. And you had told me really it just had to do with just getting depleted, that I wasn't really losing muscle. And I learned a lot from those conversations. It's been a while since then, though. How common is it to really lose muscle while you're dieting?
Well, I think pretty uncommon.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much just would have to get to the point where you were chronically over-dieted for a long fucking time. And what'll happen is, it's hard to explain, but let's just say you over-diet for a long time and you're really depleted and everything else. You would then, and you went into a show that way, you would say, I was over dieted and, when really you were just depleted. So if you're really over dieted and you think you've lost muscle, it's really just you need to get to the point where you're not that depleted anymore. And you just need to fill back. Either not be overtrained, not be that depleted, not that beat up. And so I don't think outside of, and I want to hear what Scott has to say about this, but I don't think you're really going to lose muscle tissue unless you have a fucking disease and you come off gear or something that's going to make you real. I don't think dieting it away. You'd have to diet for a long time, quite a while. Very, very hard to lose muscle mass. What say you, Scott?
I would say if you're enhanced, it is very difficult to lose muscle. If you're natural and you are in a huge caloric deficit and you're doing doing cardio, then the brain's going to go for muscle as the fastest food source. But you have to be in a pretty big deficit, and you have to have some cardiovascular training in there, most likely to lose muscle. But I think it all comes down to is everybody thinks they're bigger than they are until they diet down and they realize. I mean, we've all seen them. Yeah. Guys that are like 225. I'm going to compete, light heavy, and he's like 16 weeks out, and he ends up being like 175 pounds. So, I think people think they are bigger because, when you're eating a lot and, you're not dieting, you have a lot more nitrogen retention, tons more, you have a lot more sodium, essential minerals in your system, and you're staying fuller, and that's just water and in the muscle and filling you out. Then you diet down, you realize that you think you're losing muscle, but you really, and it's the same thing when people say, I gained 20 pounds this year, and they diet back down and they're like 3 pounds heavier than last year. A lot of it's in your head. But if you're enhanced and you're just not, on fucking Survivor or one of those shows on TV where you're eating like a mango every 3 days, no, I don't think you're going to lose muscle. So
I think if I'm Scott, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to leave.
You like that?
Yeah, we need to cut his pay.
I'm like, what the fuck?
I'm just going to leave. I'm going to leave. I went to go grab
another
my
flux capacitor.
I went to go grab my laptop actually.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe you had to take a shit or something. I didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah, your wife asked me to do something. I don't know.
Letting Mrs. Skip out. little did you know that Skip's wife just crawled out from underneath the desk while he got up.
Go getting her a Tic Tac or something.
Going to clean up that spilled mayonnaise.
Well, the truth is, I was afraid after the computer crashed last time. I was afraid to press any buttons on Facebook. So I just wanted to use our program as we are, and then I'll go to look at the rest of our questions on my laptop. I figured that would be a safer bet.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, because we do have a couple more. Skip, you had a shout out, didn't you?
Shout out.
Dan and Michelle Kennedy from Canada, clients of mine. Also, they're clients of mine / syrup. They're like my syrup exporter importers.
Ooh.
For quality Canadian badass amber syrup. Maple syrup.
Nice.
Maybe that's a business for you, Skip.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I'm a syrup. I mean, if anybody like wants to get in good with me or like say they're sorry or anything like Scott Stevenson, maybe. Like if you're Scott Stevenson.
Maybe that's how your vitamin D stays up so high.
Right, yeah. Syrup. Yeah, exactly. Send me syrup. That's awesome. Now, if you don't like me, you could just send me gear and tip off the DEA. I mean, that'd always be cool, too. We could probably cut that out of the...
Nope, it's all live.
What's
and you guys can ship things directly to Skip at this address on your screen.
1-800 Melanotan Drive.
I'm looking at our questions here. We had let's see.
We could do Olympia predictions in the meantime.
Yeah, you guys want to do the Olympia predictions? I mean, first of all, I guess the big one is going to be, the big one would be could Phil retake it? But now I guess there's even a bigger question is, Shawn Rhoden, let's assume he can compete first of all, okay? Let's say that they're like, okay, we're going to let you do this. Based off of everything that's been happening over the last couple of weeks, do you guys think he could be his best? Do you guys think he could do this?
I don't even keep track of it.
I
have no idea either. That's terrible. First, from what I understand, Phil is not, and I don't, look, I could be completely wrong. From what I understand, though, and what I've heard, Phil has no desire and is not going to prep. Now, maybe he's going stealth or covert. I don't know. Under the radar, whatever you want to call it. I have no idea. But from what I understand, he's not going to compete. So, without Shawn in it, and, if Shawn isn't competing and Phil isn't competing, there's got to be a lot of excited bodybuilders out there who are pretty fucking motivated to hit the gym right now.
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm dieting?
Yeah, well, it's not for that. But nonetheless, I'm sure that think about it. If you've got a chance to even go top 10, you probably are thinking, man, I'm turning this up. They're taking more gear, they're training their asses off and trying to, slide up that much closer to that top spot. I don't know who would threaten this year. I'd actually have to do my homework, and I'm just being honest with you. And people might find this surprising because I've heard it before, but it's just me being honest. I don't follow it because I don't care. I know.
Who was 3, 4, and 5 last year?
Can't tell you.
I can't.
I honestly can't.
I really can't remember being off the spot either. I just remember how first and second went, and I remember how Rolly looked. I honestly, that's really crazy to think, but I at the just off base, I can't really even remember.
Could be that one guy, William
Bonik.
Bonik. Yeah, he's got a pretty good physique.
He's not too happy right now.
I think Ronnie Coleman's coming back.
Oh, you're gonna skip right over that? Seriously? You guys saw that?
He's not too happy. What's going on?
No, he's not too happy. Fired Neil Young.
Neil Young.
I tried to laugh too.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash are available. Come on.
Anyway, Neil Hill. And from what I understand, he's got a history of not. I don't know. I got to be careful because I don't know Williams, so I don't know, and I don't want to go by what anybody else says.
Rumors. We were just talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Disinformation,
hey,
and you're
caught myself. See, you have to remember, and not you guys, but the listeners need to remember that we hear a lot of shit that they don't hear. there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes and trainers talking and people talking at higher levels that, you're like, well, I'm not supposed to say this. I'm not supposed to say this. I'm not supposed to know that. I'm supposed to know this. I can say that. I can't say this. And every now and then I fuck up and say something I'm not supposed to say, and I don't know any better. They're like, you were supposed to say that. I'm like, I didn't think I was. Was I not supposed to say that? I didn't know it. You didn't tell me. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. Apparently.
Okay. So
here, Flex Wheeler will move up.
He's not very happy, and it was on social media, and he said he was not. You could clearly tell. You can watch the video on his Instagram that he got rid of Neil and was bashing him pretty good for 30 minutes. I don't even think it's obviously not Instagram. It's YouTube or something that can handle a little longer rant, which is kind of funny to me. And I know this sounds shitty, but I don't care. When someone rants in like an accent like that, it's not very intimidating. It's not very, like, I'm not buying it because I'm caught up in the accent. I'm like, that just doesn't sound that tough. I don't know.
Well, here, let me tell you guys this here. I've got the top 10 for you from last year was from 10 on down. Steve Kuklo, Cedric McMillan, Nathan Diasha took 8th. Then Dexter was at 7th. I knew he went down, but I couldn't remember how far down. 6th was Big Ramy, Brandon Curry for 5th, Bonick for 4th, Rolly Winkler for 3rd, Phil Heath for 2nd, Shawn Rhoden for 1st. And keep in mind that Bonick looked good this year, but Brandon Curry beat him at the Arnold Classic, and Rolly Winkler looked like he didn't look his best by any means. He looked kind of out of shape by about 4 weeks. But hell, a lot could happen. I mean, that was back in early spring, late winter. So Rhoden, Phil Heath, and then Rolly Winkler. There was an interesting placing, man. When you think about it. But Bonick's still up there. I mean, my guy Brandon Curry, I've really been liking him a lot this past year, especially after I got a chance to talk to him. And I just feel like he's done so much you remember guys back like when Curry first turned pro, like 2011, he was a big sensation. But then, and he's always been up there. Like, he's gotten a lot of first places, and he's been in the mix for a lot of shows. But he just he fell short at the higher level. But, I mean, he did very well at the Arnold this year. I've heard it said that maybe he doesn't have the legs to be in Olympia. But I feel like his legs look great, and they look balanced to me. He looks like, to me, a better Shawn Rhoden. If you want to compare him to Shawn Rhoden, personally, I feel like he looks better with bigger arms and just more of a bubbly shape. So I'd give it to him. But I mean, Phil Heath, and then what else? There's some sort of rumor that Kai Green potentially could come back, though I highly doubt that. I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. But if it did, the world would be shocked.
Yeah, I don't know to what degree Kai's physique has slipped from when he competed. I don't really know. I know he still does a lot of, personal appearances and things like that. And I would think that his nature would be that he would continue to, train pretty much like he was trying to stay at the top of his game. But I don't know how true that is or not. It would be interesting to see because, I mean, if you have Phil out of it and you have Shawn out of it, I don't know too. I mean, I'd almost pose the question to Kai Green, would it be worth winning the Olympia if those two guys weren't there? I don't know if it would or if it wouldn't. And I also don't know if winning the Olympia at this point would, other than giving him a fat paycheck, would really further the other things or the other interests that he has with, with acting and other things that he's doing. I don't know if it would or not. I'm not sure. Yeah. But it would be interesting to see him back on stage. I'm probably a more of a fan of him now than I used to be.
Because he's not around.
Yeah, kind of, pretty much. No, I think he kind of wears on me. I think I probably was harder on him years ago than I probably needed to be. He's kind of grown on me a little bit. I've seen more interviews, and he seems pretty. I like humility, and I think that he's certainly more humble than other people up there.
I think Flex Wheeler can just move up to the opens and show him who the boss is.
Flex Wheeler, did you say?
Yeah.
Flex Lewis, I think, is where
I mean Flex Lewis.
we'd all love to see Flex be looking.
And at least Neil Young wasn't training him.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think Flex Lewis has got the best physique in bodybuilding.
So
and he has. Wow.
Leslie Kai Green was born on July 12th, 1975, making him 44 years old. You know, I mean, he's getting up there too. So even if he were to come back and he were training like nonstop and trying to be his best, I mean, he put everything into it back in the day. You know what I mean? Like 5 years ago or whatever, like he really put everything he had into it, and he was a younger version of himself. Could he be better than that? But I guess does he have to be though? I guess because maybe the same people aren't going to be there. I don't know.
I don't know. It's 5 years. I don't consider. I'm not beating up on you, but 5 years isn't back in the day.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's not a long time ago. Now, I will say from personal experience that from 40 to 45 is day and night.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, maybe if you're at that level, it's not that big of a deal because I'm clearly not. You know, there have been older bodybuilders or bodybuilders that age that have, you know, continued to be very successful and not slip very much. But I don't know. I mean, the bottom line is I don't know. So I think because I don't know, I really would like to see it. And I would be, look, you know, I wanted to see Kevin Levrone come back, and I was happy to see him come back. I wasn't one of those guys on the internet bashing him, saying he didn't belong or anything. I respect the guy for being a legend. Yeah. I'm not a shitbag. You know, I respect people for you make a comeback, and you know what? That's pretty badass to see you compete again. The fact that he wasn't 100% or wasn't what the old Kevin Levrone was really kind of doesn't matter to me a whole lot. So if Kai came back and he was off, I'd have a lot of respect for him for coming back and getting back on stage and you know, running after it again.
I think I've got another one here. This is, let's see. I know that I had another one here. There it is. I had to click view more comments. Question for everyone. This is from Jake Radcliffe. One of the only things that seems to help my blood pressure is Cialis. Plus, it gives decent pumps and vascularity. But if I mix it with a pre-workout, I'm worried about potential health concerns with combining the two. Oh, he asked this with Dr. Scott, I think. Or no, we asked this on drugs and stuff. He said, my friend that just finished PA school doesn't think it's a good idea to use these two things together. I do 15 milligrams of Cialis every other day. I use various pre-workouts. Try to keep pre-workouts stim-free unless I'm beat from work. So have you guys heard of anything relating to health issues related to Cialis and pre-workout together, stimulants together?
Well, it's a vasodilator, so it depends what's in your pre-workout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have a you know, bunch of beta alanine in there and stuff like that, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you could get real flush. See you getting real flush, get a woody and you're flush. You know, maybe I did that before, so I can tell you. Yeah, you got to be careful what's in the pre-workout, because if you're putting a bunch of you know, vasodilators in your system, you know, you could have some issues. But I mean, you probably know it because you start getting red, you know, get that tingly feeling and all that. But I mean, Cialis' effect on blood pressure are relevant to what's causing your blood pressure to get high, and then even at that point, it's not that big of a it doesn't have that strong of an effect. So you also need to figure out why your blood pressure is high, because could be your kidneys, could be a lot of things. It could be your sodium intake, could be, you know, there's hydration. So there's a lot of reasons for high blood pressure. It's not just a singular thing. So, because I've had blood pressure issues all my life, and when I may have used Cialis, it didn't help my blood pressure at all. But that was related to why my blood pressure was high. But yeah, watch all the. What's the other one? Not beta alanine. What's the other one that's a big vasodilator in the pre-workouts?
Citrulline?
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, there's another one. I can't remember the name of it, but the combination of
arginine.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're all but beta-alanine is the biggest one.
Okay.
So if you get a pre-workout, it's got a lot in there. You could actually almost you could get dizzy and stuff from it. So you gotta be careful.
Rochelle Normandeau says S2H has a face with an exclamation point.
Hi, Michelle. Hi.
Let's see. All right, guys. I think I've got one more here. Do you think it's worthwhile to use a glucometer and a blood pressure cuff to track while bodybuilding? What do you pay attention to?
That cut out. Did you get that, Scott?
Yeah, I think it's. I've done it. I think it's especially if you're using insulin. But I think the one thing you can look for, especially if you're dieting, is if your blood sugar gets too low, or it takes you get hyperreactive. So it goes way up, and it maybe comes down into a normal level, but it has a huge drop. And that if you're having problems with your diet, if you feel like you're getting lightheaded or you're feeling kind of weak at times, you get clammy, then I would say, even if you're not diabetic or don't have any of those symptoms, it's worth monitoring that. And then of course blood pressure. Yeah, I mean, the two will kind of go together in some ways depending on what's happening. You could have a hyperreactive blood pressure that drops a lot, and then your actual blood pressure will drop, of course, so that you can use those two to kind of a checks and balances on what's going on. So yeah, there's a lot of people who do that. So I don't think it's anything abnormal, or it's looking after yourself.
He adds in too, because Skip, he was asking, should you use a blood pressure cuff and a glucometer while you're on cycle? And he said, what do you look at? What are the things you look at in your health to make sure that you are healthy, while you're on, is I think where he's going. I think he used those two things as an example.
Gotcha. Yeah, blood sugar levels, obviously, if you're using things like insulin and things like that, but with a regular, AAS cycle and, excuse me, and that sort of thing, blood sugar isn't going to be altered enough with a steroid cycle to really be something that you need to pay extra attention to. I'm not saying not to. All I'm saying is it's not the first thing I think of when I'm trying to give pointers on how to monitor somebody's health or even monitor my own. Yeah. Blood pressure, obviously, is important. But I think, too, it's the blood work. and it all matters. But, when you're on cycle, obviously, all the numbers matter. But at the same time, your RBCs, hematocrit, and hemoglobin are huge. As far as blood viscosity, we've talked about that quite a bit. Your renal and your liver values and things. But I think the blood work and the blood pressure, I think, are probably the things that stand out the most to me. Can you think of anything else, Scott?
No, but do it in the morning too. If you're just going to check both of them, and then that's probably, get some baseline there, and then check in the afternoon.
Yeah. After
about 4 meals or so.
I remember talking to Justin Harris a year, or I think it was last year, because he had done a lot with carbing people up and using a glucometer during that. Mm-hmm. And we had just a bunch of questions. He was actually going to come on here with us. That's what it was. He was going to come on here with us, and we couldn't get it lined up. So he and I just knocked out all the questions I gathered for him, just one-on-one. And he had said, his thoughts on the glucometer. I think he's gotten so many glucometer questions, it drove him insane. Because he was his point was, he said, dude, people are using that thing way, way too often. That it's it could be beneficial. And sure, because gear can make you more insulin resistant. So it wouldn't hurt.
No, it wouldn't hurt.
But, yeah. Do you need to? I think you managed to live a healthy life, as a bodybuilder, Skip and Scott, for 20 plus years. No, you didn't live a healthy life?
No.
Healthy is a relative term.
Yeah, relative.
Very subjective.
Yeah, healthy for a bodybuilder,
Right.
But, yeah, I think that was his point. Anything else you guys can think of that would be beneficial for health?
No, I didn't get to answer the Cialis thing, and my only point was, I want to throw this in here.
Yeah.
Was just that if you're taking Cialis, I don't really think you need much of a pre-workout. You got the best of everything right there. And it's Cialis, for fuck's sake. What else is going to increase, or vasodilate more than... I think anything over that's just overkill. Or you like stimulants in your pre-workout, which could be too, but I'm not a stimulant guy outside of caffeine.
Right.
Which means I am a stimulant guy, I guess, the more I think about it.
Yeah, what kind of answer is that?
Well, I don't like a lot of stimulants. I'm not a big fan of them, but I do like my caffeine. So I guess I contradicted myself.
I don't like drugs, but I like meth.
I don't know where he's going. I'm not real sure.
I don't either. That's about all we've got.
Me neither.
I think, you know what, there's a couple questions I'm missing here because we gathered them from various places. So, guys, if you're listening to this, any questions we didn't get to, I am going to save those for the next episode. Man, we made this happen. It almost didn't happen. Like Scott, what was it? So I couldn't do it 2 weeks ago. I was traveling. Mm-hmm. And then Scott, you said you couldn't do it today, and then all of a sudden you could. And
no, I said I could originally. I think you guys get confused with my message.
Okay, but we made it. We made it. What do you guys think of this evening time show?
I think it's better than the noon one.
Yeah, it's certainly better than Mondays. If for no other reason than my schedule.
Yeah. Did you?
I didn't think I would enjoy doing it on a Sunday because Sunday's like family day. That's like hanging out with my wife and or hang out with Scott's wife, but whatever I have going that day. My daughter, things like that. But it actually works out pretty good. And I think the thought that we're able to maybe increase, the viewership of people chiming in and being a part of the actual recording would be kind of cool too. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But I like it. I'm more awake.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Yeah.
What do you? It gives me every other Sunday to check my son's room out to see what's going on in here.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is going on in there? Did you discover anything?
I don't know. When I was looking for that charger thing, I was afraid I'd run into like some old crumpled up sticky towels or something. Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with socks, but yeah, you don't touch any socks. Don't touch them.
Yeah. I do have a tack missing on the floor though. I can't find. I'm hoping I don't step on it.
You'll find it. Yeah, the second you stand up, you'll find it.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, in that case, thank you to everybody who has been following along, listening to the show. Check out our sponsor, TrueNutrition.com, and Max Holiday. He shows up right now and says, "What's up, guys?" As we are closing the podcast. Max? Yeah. What's up, Max? Shout out to Max. We're leaving. But anyway, yeah. Guys.
Max, we're here. We're going.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for listening to the show. S2H, Skip Hill. You guys at home, if you want to check out more from Skip, reach out to him. TeamSkip.com. Go to the Intense Muscle message board and check out everything DC training over there. And that is it. We'll see you soon, guys, for another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear. I'm Scott McNally, S2H Skip Hill. We are out of here.
Out.